Have you ever felt an instant connection with someone without knowing why? As if something about them made you feel safe, seen, and understood? That feeling is not magic. It is psychology. There are hidden tricks that can make people like you within seconds without saying a single word. These are not fake compliments or forced smiles. These are natural triggers built deep inside the human mind. And once you learn how to use them, people will start noticing you, trusting you, even following you without realizing why. Most people go through life unaware of how easily their minds are influenced. But those who understand these tricks, they shape conversations, they win trust, they stand out. What you are about to learn is not taught in school. It is used by top marketers, politicians, leaders, and sometimes manipulators. But when you know the same tricks, you can use them to build real connections and protect yourself from being controlled. This is not just information, it is power. And now it is in your hands. Most people believe that likability is a matter of luck, something you are either born with or not. But the truth is, being liked is a skill. It is something that can be learned, practiced, and mastered. And once you understand how it works, everything changes. Imagine walking into a room and feeling the energy shift. People turn toward you, listen more closely when you speak, and remember you even after you are gone. This is not charm. It is not confidence. It is psychology used in the right way. There are certain behaviors, words, and even silences that trigger the brain to feel connected. The science behind this has been studied for years. In fact, psychologists have discovered that the brain starts forming impressions within milliseconds of meeting someone. Before you even speak, people are already deciding whether they like you or not. But when you know how to influence that moment, you hold the upper hand. Let me take you back to 1967. A young psychology professor named Albert Mehrabian was studying the effect of communication. His research revealed something shocking. Only 7% of our communication is based on the actual words we say. The rest, 38%, is tone of voice, and a massive 55% is body language. That means people do not just listen to you, they feel you. And feelings are not logical, they are triggered. This discovery was a game changer. It proved that likability is not just about what you say, but how you make people feel when you say it. Think about how many relationships, job offers, or friendships begin with just a feeling. That gut instinct people talk about. It is often created by psychological cues that most people never notice, but you will. In a small experiment conducted at the University of British Columbia, participants were shown short videos of people having conversations. They were asked to rate who they liked the most. Interestingly, those who made more eye contact, nodded slightly while listening, and used open body language were rated as more likable, even though the actual conversations were nearly identical. What does this tell us? That the mind does not always wait for logic. It reacts to signals, fast and often without permission. Now here is where it gets even deeper. The human brain is wired for survival. We are drawn to people who seem safe, warm, and familiar. But we are also influenced by those who seem confident, in control, and emotionally intelligent. The right balance of both traits can make you unforgettable. Not just liked, but remembered. Let us pause for a moment and think about a real-world scenario. You are in a job interview. You answer the questions clearly, but the person next to you speaks with passion, makes the interviewer smile, and leaves a small personal story behind. Who do you think they will remember more? Likability is not about being loud or funny. It is about being real, but in a way that speaks directly to the brain's emotional core. Many people try too hard to impress, but the truth is, people do not remember who impressed them. They remember who made them feel something. And here is the part nobody tells you. These tricks are used on you all the time, by brands, by leaders, even by strangers. You have been influenced to like certain people, products, or ideas without even realizing it. And if you do not know how it works, you will keep falling for it again and again. But once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. This video will take you through 10 powerful psychological tricks that can make anyone feel connected to you instantly. But more than that, it will open your eyes to how these tricks are already shaping your world. Sometimes for good, sometimes for control. So listen closely, because each trick is a piece of a puzzle, and when the last piece clicks, you will not just understand others better, you will understand yourself in ways you never imagined. Now let us uncover what has been hidden in plain sight. There is a reason why most people never learn how to make others like them instantly. It is not because the information does not exist. It is because the truth is hidden, buried beneath layers of myths, assumptions, and outdated beliefs. From childhood, we are told that being kind, polite, or helpful is enough. That if you are a good person, people will naturally be drawn to you. But reality tells a different story. You might have noticed that sometimes the loudest person in the room gets all the attention, while the quiet, thoughtful one is ignored. Or that someone with average talent becomes popular, while someone truly gifted remains unnoticed. This is not by accident. It is psychological design. The world does not reward what is fair. It rewards what is perceived. And perception is not built on truth. It is built on subtle signals, unconscious patterns, and emotional triggers triggers that most people never learn to control. This is where the hidden truth begins to unfold. People do not like you because of who you truly are. They like you because of how you make them feel about themselves. That small shift in perspective changes everything. Likability is not about being impressive. It is about being emotionally intelligent, tuning into what others need to feel seen, safe, and valued in your presence. Take, for example, the concept of mirroring, a psychological behavior where people unconsciously copy the body language, tone, or speech patterns of someone they like. But what most people do not realize is that this works both ways. When you subtly mirror someone's gestures or tone, their brain registers familiarity. It creates comfort, trust, even attraction. Not because they understand what is happening, but because their subconscious mind says, this person is like me. And in human psychology, similarity equals safety. Now consider this. How many times have you heard someone say, I do not know why, but I just like that person? That statement is not based on logic. It is based on emotional resonance. The way someone nodded while listening, the slight smile at the right moment, the feeling of being heard, even if no deep conversation took place. These micro moments are not random. They are psychological fingerprints left behind without awareness, but with great impact. One of the most overlooked truths is that people are not paying as much attention to your words as they are to your presence. Studies in neuroscience have shown that emotional responses in the brain happen before rational thinking kicks in. This means the decision to like or dislike someone often happens before the brain even understands why. So while you are carefully choosing your words, the other person's brain is reacting to your energy, your posture, your rhythm, your tone. That is the battlefield where likability is won or lost. In the 1970s, a groundbreaking study by psychologist Nalini Ambati revealed that students could predict a teacher's effectiveness just by watching a silent video clip of the teacher for 10 seconds. What is more shocking, their predictions were nearly identical to the evaluations made by students who had actually taken the full course. The point is simple but unsettling. People form lasting judgments in seconds, and those judgments are not based on deep knowledge or long-term interaction. They are based on psychological cues, whether we are aware of them or not. And yet we are never taught to master those cues. We are told to focus on qualifications, appearances, or achievements, while ignoring the psychological levers that actually shape how people feel about us. That is why the truth remains hidden. Because if everyone understood how this works, the balance of power would shift. Those who have learned to influence perception, quietly and skillfully, often rise faster, connect deeper, and leave a stronger mark than those who rely on talent alone. But here is where it gets even more interesting. The very same tricks that can make someone like you instantly can also be used to deceive. And that is why this knowledge is kept in shadows. Manipulators, con artists, and power seekers have used these tricks for decades, not to connect, but to control. And because most people never recognize the signs, they keep falling into the trap again and again. That is the danger of not knowing. Once you see how easily likability can be created, you begin to question every interaction. Was that smile real? Was that compliment genuine? Or was it strategy? The lines blur, and suddenly the world around you looks different. Not colder, but clearer. Because now you understand the code behind the curtain. The unspoken language that governs relationships, influence, and trust. This is the hidden truth. Likability is not an accident. It is a formula. One that has been used in politics, business, media, and even war. A formula designed to bypass logic and speak directly to the emotional brain. This is the hidden truth. Likability is not an accident. It is a formula. One that has been used in politics, business, media, and even war. A formula designed to bypass logic and speak directly to the emotional brain. The good news is, once you know it, you are no longer at the mercy of it. You can choose how to use it ethically, wisely, and with awareness. In the next section, you will see how these psychological tricks are used around you every single day, and how, without knowing it, you may have already fallen under their influence. Look around you. Every screen you swipe, every word you read, every face you trust, someone is using psychology to guide your decisions, and it is not always in your favor. The tricks we are discussing are not just theories or experiments buried in old psychology books. They are alive, breathing, operating silently in advertisements, political speeches, romantic conversations, and even casual friendships. And the most unsettling part, they work, not because you are weak, but because you are human. Let us begin with one of the most powerful psychological tools, reciprocity. It is simple. When someone gives you something, your brain creates pressure to return the favor. That something does not have to be material. It could be a compliment, a smile, a kind gesture. And once it is given, the seed of obligation is planted. Marketers use this constantly. Think of free samples at stores, not because they want to be generous, but because they know that after receiving something free, your brain will struggle to walk away without buying. The trap is emotional, not logical. Now apply that same idea to relationships. A person showers you with attention, praise, affection, especially in the beginning. You feel special, seen, and before you even process what is happening, you begin to like them more than you understand. This is not connection, it is strategy. Often used by narcissists or manipulators, this tactic, called love bombing, creates emotional dependence fast. Then once you are hooked, they pull away, leaving you chasing the same feeling they gave you so easily at first. The psychological trick: your brain wants to return to the state of reward, and in that chase, you lower your defenses. Another widely used tactic is called social proof. It is the reason why online reviews affect your decisions, why laughter tracks in sitcoms make jokes seem funnier, why you are more likely to trust someone when others seem to admire them. The brain is wired to avoid uncertainty. When unsure, we copy others, because doing what the group does feels safer. Politicians use this by filling rooms with supporters who clap on cue. Influencers use it by buying fake followers. In both cases, the goal is to make you think, if so many people trust them, maybe I should too. Let us take a deeper look into the world of framing. This is where reality is shaped by context, not content. Say a politician says, only 10% unemployment. Sounds hopeful, but if they said, 1 out of every 10 people has no job, the emotional response changes instantly. Same information, different frame. Advertisers do this when they say 90% fat-free instead of contains 10% fat. It is not about lying. It is about leading your mind toward a desired conclusion without you noticing. This also appears in everyday arguments. For example, someone might say, if you love me, you would agree with me. It reframes love as obedience. And if you argue, you feel guilty. That is not a conversation. It is emotional manipulation. Then comes anchoring, a method that sets your expectations without asking. You walk into a store and see a watch labeled at $2,000. Next to it, another one is $500. That second one now feels affordable, even if it is overpriced. Why? Because the first price anchored your brain to a higher value. This is why limited offers and original price slashed banners exist. They are not there to inform you. They are there to manipulate your perception of value. Anchoring is not just for money. It happens in relationships too. Imagine someone starts off extremely kind and loving, setting a high emotional anchor. Then they become colder, more distant. You keep holding on, comparing every new version of them to the original version they showed you. That comparison keeps you trapped, waiting for a return to the beginning. This is not affection. This is emotional anchoring. Another powerful trick is the foot in the door technique. It begins with a small request, something so simple that it feels rude to say no. But once you say yes, your brain wants to stay consistent. So when a bigger request follows, you are more likely to agree. First, they ask you to sign a petition. Next, they ask you to donate. Then they ask for your time. Each yes builds on the last until you are deeply invested without realizing how it started. On the darker end of the spectrum lies gaslighting, a psychological weapon designed to make you doubt your own memory, feelings, or reality. It is subtle. It starts with, you are overthinking. Then, that never happened. Slowly, you begin to question yourself. You stop trusting your instincts. And once your mind is clouded, the other person gains control, not by force, but by confusion. All of these tricks are used because they work, and the ones who use them often wear the mask of charm. They seem confident, helpful, warm, but behind the mask is calculation, a script, a plan to influence your behavior without ever making you aware of it. But here is the twist. These same tricks can be used to build trust, create genuine connections, and become someone people naturally like. When used with honesty and self-awareness, they are tools, not traps. It all comes down to why you use them. So next time someone makes you feel instantly drawn to them, pause. Ask yourself, is this connection real or is it being manufactured? Because now you have seen the dark side of likability. And once you understand how easily people can shape your emotions, you begin to take back control. In the next section, we will explore how those in positions of power, leaders, influencers, even cults, use these tricks not just to attract, but to dominate. Power does not always wear a crown. It whispers, it smiles, it shakes your hand while shifting the world beneath your feet. The most powerful people rarely raise their voices. words, but when they speak, the room listens. Why? Because true power is not loud. It is psychological. It lies in understanding how the human mind bends, how emotions shape decisions, and how perception can be designed like architecture. At the heart of psychological power is control, not of others' actions, but of their attention. Whoever controls attention controls behavior. This is why charismatic leaders and master manipulators often speak slowly, pausing in ways that force you to lean in. They use silence not as a lack of speech, but as a tool to increase intensity. The brain fills in the silence with meaning, curiosity, even reverence. Suddenly, their presence feels larger than life, not because of what they say, but because of how they make you feel while waiting. Powerful individuals also understand the value of scarcity. What is rare becomes desirable. What is hard to get becomes valuable. They are not always available. They do not over-explain. They leave parts of their identity in shadow. This creates intrigue, mystery, and the more someone tries to understand them, the more emotionally invested they become. Scarcity is not just about limiting access. It is about increasing perceived worth. Think of how cult leaders operate. They isolate followers from external influence, reduce access to opposing ideas, and create emotional scarcity, offering approval only when obedience is shown. Over time, the followers begin to seek validation like a drug. Their self-worth becomes dependent on the leader's approval. That is not love. That is psychological captivity. In politics, the same patterns appear. A powerful figure uses fear to control the narrative, framing the world as dangerous, chaotic, unstable. Then they present themselves as the only solution, the protector, the answer. This creates dependency, loyalty, even worship. Not because the public is blind, but because fear is a shortcut to obedience. Once afraid, people stop questioning. This is also where emotional projection comes into play. Powerful people often mirror your frustrations, your anger, your dreams. They say, "I understand you," and mean it just enough to sound true. But what they are really doing is becoming a blank canvas for your emotions. You see in them what you want to believe, and they give you just enough evidence to keep the illusion alive. Let us not forget the weapon of confusion. Great manipulators use mixed signals to destabilize. One day warm, the next day distant. One day praising you, the next day criticizing. This inconsistency is not accidental. It keeps your brain busy trying to figure them out. And while your attention is trapped in the puzzle, they retain control of the board. This is the same tactic used in emotional abuse, toxic leadership, and media spin cycles. Confusion keeps people obedient, focused inward, unable to rebel. There is also a tactic called divide and dominate. It works by creating small, artificial conflicts within a group, making individuals feel isolated from each other. The powerful person then becomes the only point of connection, the only one who understands. This creates emotional reliance. People stop trusting each other and trust only the one who caused the division in the first place. This has been used in political regimes, corporations, and even families. It is subtle, but effective. Power is not always dark, though. When rooted in awareness and intention, psychological influence can uplift rather than dominate. A mentor, for example, uses the same tools, attention, presence, emotional intelligence, but to empower, not imprison. They read people deeply, not to exploit, but to guide. They create safety instead of fear. And they understand that true authority does not come from force, but from clarity. A study conducted at Stanford University revealed that people are more likely to follow those who appear confident, even if they are not experts. Confidence triggers trust, and this is why powerful individuals focus more on perception than proof. They walk with certainty, speak with rhythm, hold eye contact just long enough to assert dominance without causing discomfort. They know that most people do not question someone who seems sure of themselves. In business, psychological power manifests as status signaling. Luxury brands, elite memberships, high-cost seminars, they are not just products or services, they are psychological statements. They signal success, intelligence, exclusivity. People want to associate with those who seem above, not because they are better, but because we are wired to gravitate toward perceived strength. And those who understand this use it not to blend in, but to stand apart. Perhaps the most refined form of psychological power is detachment, the ability to walk away without fear, to remain calm when others panic, to be unaffected by praise or criticism. This creates an aura of mystery and control that others feel, but cannot explain. Detachment signals internal power. It shows you are not ruled by emotional chaos, but by inner discipline. And that is rare. That is magnetic. The truth is, those who master the psychology of power do not need to chase influence. They become it, not through aggression, but through precision, through silence, through the art of being just visible enough to create impact, while remaining just distant enough to stay untouchable. And here lies the ultimate realization. Power is not something others give you. It is something you build within your mind, your presence, your understanding of people. In the next section, you will learn how to use this understanding, not just to protect yourself, but to rebuild your mindset, to reshape your presence, and to ensure that no trick, no manipulation, no illusion can control you again. It begins with awareness, not the kind that merely notices, but the kind that sees through. Because once you understand the games being played, you stop being a pawn. You stop reacting. You start choosing. To reprogram the mind, you must first dismantle the illusions it has accepted as truth. Most people walk through life with borrowed thoughts, ideas planted by culture, media, parents, or partners. These thoughts feel like your own, but they are not. They were carefully placed, repeated, reinforced, until they sank deep into the subconscious, shaping how you see the world, how you see others, and worst of all, how you see yourself. So how do you begin to erase the script? You start with observation, cold, honest, neutral. Begin watching your own mind as if it belongs to someone else. When someone compliments you, notice your emotional response. Does your heart race? Do you feel worthy or surprised? When someone ignores you, do you shrink, get angry, or try to please them more? Each emotional reaction is a window into your programming, and the more you observe without judging, the more control you gain over those reactions. You stop being dragged by emotion, you start understanding its roots. Next comes disruption. Every time you catch yourself reacting automatically, pause. That pause is power because it interrupts the script. For example, if you feel the urge to agree just to avoid conflict, pause. Ask yourself, is this truth or habit? Or when you find yourself seeking validation, ask, am I doing this to be accepted or because it aligns with who I am? This level of self-questioning is uncomfortable, but that discomfort is a sign you are moving. You are not frozen in old patterns anymore. You are shifting, and with each shift, your mind becomes harder to manipulate. Reprogramming also requires exposure to truth, not motivational slogans or empty positivity, but raw, grounded truth. This comes from reading real psychological research, watching how people behave in unfiltered situations, having brutally honest conversations with yourself, because you cannot rewire a mind built on illusion with more illusion. You need clarity. You need information that is not designed to sell or soothe, but to reveal. One powerful exercise. At the end of each day, write down 3 interactions where you felt influenced, positively or negatively. Then ask yourself, what tactic was used? Was it praise? Was it urgency, guilt, attention, scarcity? Over time, you will begin to see patterns. And with those patterns, you reclaim choice. Then there is the inner voice, the one that whispers doubts, shame, and fear. That voice is often the loudest enemy you will ever face. But here is the secret. That voice is not you. It is an echo, a mixture of everything you have absorbed, and it can be changed. The technique is cognitive reframing. When your mind says, you are not enough, do not argue. Instead, respond, that is one opinion. What evidence do you have? Force your inner critic to show proof. It will not have any, because most self-limiting beliefs are built on assumptions, not facts. This process trains your brain to challenge old programming and install new perspectives. Another method is controlled exposure. Deliberately place yourself in situations where your fears are triggered, but in small, manageable doses. Afraid of rejection? Start small. Say hello to a stranger. Ask a question in a group. Speak when you would normally stay silent. Each time you survive the discomfort, your brain learns. This fear is not death, it is growth. And every inch of growth weakens the chains of psychological manipulation. To reprogram your mind fully, you must also redefine what power looks like. It is not dominance. It is not control over others. Real power is internal stability. It is walking into any room without needing to prove yourself. It is being liked, but not dependent on it. It is being understood, but not requiring it. This shift happens when you stop asking, how can I make them like me? And start asking, do they even deserve access to me? That question flips the dynamic. It puts you back in control, not as a defense mechanism, but as a mental filter, because not everyone deserves entry into your mind. Also remember, you cannot reprogram a mind surrounded by toxic inputs. If your environment constantly feeds you fear, scarcity, comparison, you will always be fighting upstream. Protect your inputs like you would protect your home. What you read, watch, hear, these things shape your subconscious far more than you realize. Silence is also essential, not emptiness, intentional silence. 10 minutes a day where you disconnect from noise, social media, conversations, entertainment, and just listen to your breath, to your thoughts, to the emotional residue you usually drown out. This space allows the mind to reset, to hear itself clearly, and in that clarity, rewiring begins. Finally, do not rush the process. Your programming was built over years. It will not vanish overnight. But every day you interrupt a thought, challenge a reaction, or stay silent instead of reacting, you are reclaiming power. And this is the final truth. The psychological tricks used against you work best on unguarded minds. But the moment you begin to watch, to question, to rewire, those tricks lose their grip. You become unshakable, not cold, not distant, but anchored. Anchored in awareness, anchored in truth, anchored in yourself. You have learned the tricks, the manipulations, and the psychological truths hidden in plain sight. But now you are about to face a revelation, a truth so powerful, it will shatter everything you thought you you knew about the world, about others, and most importantly, about yourself. Imagine for a moment that everything you've ever believed, every assumption about how people behave, why you feel the way you do, even how you perceive reality is a construct, a carefully crafted illusion designed to keep you small, to keep you contained. The reality you've been living in is not real. It's a simulation, a maze of your own making. And the moment you realize this, you see the walls of the maze dissolve. It's not just about the psychological tricks used by others. It's about how you have been using them on yourself. Every time you told yourself you weren't good enough, you were repeating someone else's narrative. Every time you feared rejection, you were playing into a fear created by others. Every time you held back from speaking your truth, you were buying into the lie that your voice doesn't matter. But here's the turning point. None of that is real. It never was. These thoughts, these fears, they were all planted. And now you have the power to uproot them. You see, this is the great illusion we live in. The world we interact with is built on perception, not truth. What we see, what we feel, what we experience, it's all filtered through the lens of our beliefs. And these beliefs are influenced by forces we don't even realize are at play. Society, family, media, culture, each one shapes us, molds us, until we no longer know who we are beneath the layers of expectation. But here's the question. What if you could step outside of all of that? What if you could see the world and yourself without the distortion of these external influences? What if you could see through the facade and look straight into the heart of reality? The moment you stop identifying with these external forces, that's when you begin to take back control. You realize that the key to your freedom, your true power, was inside you all along. It's not a magic trick. It's not some profound secret that only a few can access. It's simply the realization that you are not the product of the influences around you. You are the creator of your own reality. Every thought, every belief, every action you take is a choice. And the moment you realize that, you unlock a power that cannot be taken away. The trick is in how you see yourself. For so long, you may have believed that the world was happening to you, that others were in control, that you were subject to the whims of fate. But in truth, you are the one holding the reins. You always have been. Once you grasp this concept that you are not a victim of circumstances, but a powerful creator, you begin to see everything in a new light. The people who once controlled you with their words, their actions, their expectations, they lose their power because now you understand that they were just playing a role in your mind's theater. And once you take control of the script, the play changes. This is why the most powerful people in the world are those who have learned to disconnect from external influences. They do not define themselves by the opinions of others, the judgment of society, or the norms of culture. They define themselves by what they believe to be true in their hearts. And when they do this, the world bends to their will. But this power is not just about dominating others. It is about creating the life you want. It's about understanding that you are the architect of your own existence. You can design your life, your relationships, your career, and your future, not based on what you've been told you should want, but based on what you truly desire. The most freeing realization is this: the world doesn't need to change for you to be free. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment, the right circumstances, or the approval of others. You have the power to create the change within you right now. And as you step into this new understanding, you will begin to see the world in ways you never imagined. The manipulations you once fell victim to will no longer work. The tricks, the tactics, they will have no power over you. You will walk with a quiet confidence, a knowing that your mind is no longer a battlefield but a sanctuary. But the key to unlocking this power is simple: awareness. The moment you see through the illusions, you stop being controlled by them. You start living from a place of clarity, authenticity, and strength. And when you do, the world will respond. It will shift to match your new perception, because the truth is, the world doesn't change until you do. This is the turning point. This is the moment when you stop being a pawn and start becoming the king of your own mind. And in that moment, everything changes. You have walked through the shadows, unraveled the psychological tricks that control behavior, and gained insight into the mechanics of power. You now understand that the world is not as it seems, that reality is a construct shaped by perceptions, beliefs, and hidden forces. But the most important lesson you have learned is this: you have the power to rewrite your own story. In this journey, you have learned that your mind is not a passive recipient of external influences. It is the active creator of your reality. Each belief you hold, each reaction you have, is a choice. And the moment you realize that, everything changes. The tricks others play to control your thoughts and behaviors lose their potency. The power to control your destiny rests solely in your hands. But this journey does not end here. This is just the beginning, because now that you understand how manipulation works, how power flows, and how your mind can be reprogrammed, you are armed with a knowledge few ever attain. But it is not enough to simply know. You must apply. You must take the lessons you have learned and use them to craft a new version of yourself. Start by taking control of your thoughts. Become aware of the patterns, the beliefs that have shaped you, and begin to question them. Do they serve you, or are they simply old stories that no longer fit who you are are becoming. The more you challenge these beliefs, the more you reclaim your power. Next, protect your mind from external manipulation. Be vigilant about the information you consume. What you read, watch, and hear shapes your subconscious mind. Avoid sources of negativity, fear, and control. Seek out content that challenges you, inspires you, and empowers you to think for yourself. The less you rely on external validation, the stronger your internal sense of self will become. Embrace silence and solitude. As you have learned, true power comes from within. In the stillness of your own mind, you will find clarity. Take time each day to disconnect from the noise of the world, to listen to your thoughts, and to recenter yourself. In this space, you will uncover the answers you seek and the strength you need to face any challenge. But above all, never stop questioning. The moment you stop asking why, you start living on autopilot. The moment you stop challenging your beliefs, you fall back into the same traps of manipulation and control. Keep pushing the boundaries of what you think is possible. The world will attempt to box you in, but your mind is limitless. Now, as we reach the end of this journey, I leave you with one final thought. You are not at the mercy of the world. You are the creator of it. The moment you truly understand this, everything will shift. Your relationships, your career, your sense of self, all of it will transform because you will no longer be a pawn in someone else's game. You will be the one holding the pieces, designing the moves. I want to hear from you. Have you ever noticed these psychological tricks being used on you? Do you see the patterns now? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's continue this conversation because the journey to self-mastery is ongoing. And the more we share our knowledge, the more powerful we become. Take this knowledge and use it. Walk confidently through the world, knowing that you are in control. Remember, power is not about dominating others. It is about mastering yourself. The next step is yours. Are you ready to take it? If you found this video eye-opening, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Share it with others who might need to hear these truths. And most importantly, take what you've learned today and apply it. Start changing your reality. You have the power. Now use it.